Greetings, lore seekers, and welcome to another episode of the Lost Archives. More Star Wars Legends lore. And today I'm returning to my Force Traditions series, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Iron Knights. Now, the first thing you would think from this is you'd be like, Iron Knights? And the picture located here, you'd be like, hang on, these are droids. Are these Force sensitive droids? Well, that's actually a modern misconception that plagues this particular breed of Force users. It's actually, if you look here in the centre of its chest, you can see a crystal. That's right, this is a silicone-based crystalline entity-like lifeform that has the power to channel the Force. The species specifically known as the Shards, which will get their own video at some point. Those who have chosen to follow the paths of the Force, specifically the Jedi, as it was a Jedi Master who originally trained the Shards in the teachings of the Force, have installed themselves in droid bodies to pursue agendas and also interact with the surroundings. Now, the Force is used in conjunction with their droid bodies in order to pursue principles that are in line with the Jedi. Now, they do sometimes get some sort of persecution and some misunderstanding due to their droid bodies, and the vast majority of the Star Wars galaxy treating droids like slaves or second-class citizens. Now, in order to explain fully about the Iron Knights, I need to firstly explain about the history of the Shards. Originally, when the Shards were discovered by the colonists on their home planet, a world simply called Aurax, it wasn't long before the colonists who ventured to the world realised that the crystals on their planet were sentient, and were trying to communicate with them using a form of electromagnetic communication. Something, unfortunately, that doesn't really translate well to basics, until they were able to create a certain device in order to properly communicate between the two. Some of the Shards agreed to be implanted in droid bodies, they'd go to the Galactic Republic, and they would essentially establish relations with the galactic community, visiting other worlds, creating ambassadors, and various other things. It was then noticed by one of the Jedi Masters, specifically Jedi Master Akinos, a Sullist Jedi Master, that some of the Shards were Force sensitive, so he began taking various members of the Shards as Padawans and training them in the ways of the living Force. Now, many of these would start to call themselves the Iron Knights, and then eventually, the Jedi being what they were, and not really liking certain things happening with the Force, see certain organisations like Alalia or certain blaster-wielding individuals, and they decided to excommunicate him. He then took many of the Jedi Shards with him. This actually had the brilliant effect of saving them from the Great Jedi Purge. Unfortunately for the rest of the Shard species, the Empire decided to be like, right, these crystals are going to be useful, let's break their hive mind and heavily mine the planet. So the majority of the Shard species would either have to flee off-world or flee deep underground where the Empire couldn't get them. Unfortunately, this also meant that all droid bodies were banned from the surface of Aurax, meaning that the Shards, if they hadn't already managed to secure one, would be stuck. Thankfully, a majority of them managed to flee off-world and settle on another planet, with the majority of the Iron Knights taking refuge on a planet called Dweem, staying there for many decades until the Empire was eventually defeated. One day they were rediscovered by members of the New Jedi Order under Luke Skywalker, and instead of excommunicating those who wanted to include the Iron Knights in the Order, Luke's Order accepted them, and they would serve alongside the Jedi in many different engagements, including notably in the Yuzhan War, where they were stalwart defenders of the galaxy and of the Jedi Order in particular. Though it is during this time that one of the Iron Knights will actually fall to the dark side for the very first time, marking the first member of the Shard race to actually succumb to the dark side. I will probably cover that off in its own video at some point when we get to the Yuzhan lore, if I ever do get to it, because there is a lot to cover. Now to move on to a little bit of the philosophy of the Iron Knights, and to an extent the Shards as a whole. Now, this species and the Force tradition is very competitive and also quite curious creatures. Normally, with any of the Shard species, because of the way in which they communicate being quite slow, in using the electromagnetic variant anyway, This means that it can take up to days or even years for entire conversations to play out. Now, with the Iron Knights and their droid body connection, they are able to interact with the entirety of the galaxy in a more linear, in the way in which the rest of the sentients interact with the galaxy. Meaning that the Iron Knights are actually faster at talking than their droidless Shard counterparts. Now, considering that they are outside of linear time and they don't seem to have the same sort of lifespan that many other sentient beings have, they actually find this to be quite fascinating, both the speed and the short lives of other creatures. They find the galaxy to be quite dynamic, vibrant, and a place that they very much want to protect with a great deal of zeal, because they very much realize how precious the galaxy is. Now, it is generally due to this zeal and the time that they would spend meditating in contemplation on the very nature of the Force that would prevent the Iron Knights from falling to the temptations of the dark side. Though, as previously mentioned, one of them would eventually give in to this temptation during the Zambon War. Anyway, moving on. So, very much like the Jedi Knights, given their previous affiliation with the Jedi, the Iron Knights do train with the use of lightsabers, though a lot of them would also be quite capable of defeating enemies with weapons that they've had built into their droid bodies. It is for this fact that a lot of Iron Knights would favour droids built for battle. Now, specifically Juggernaut War Droids, or I believe it was the Flitch series of battle droid, whereas they would view the B1 and B2 battle droids to be less capable to housing their droid bodies. And that would probably be the mass production way that B1 battle droids were produced. Though thinking about it, if they weren't able to get their hands on a B2 chassis and heavily modify it, they could probably make it suit their purposes as well. That might be something to speculate on in the future when I decide to do another speculation video. I might have to get a few people involved in that one. But anyway, this has been my video on the Iron Knights. My sources will be listed in the description below. Also, let me know if you guys want me to cover anything on the Star Wars Saga stuff, as the Iron Knights information does very much come from that and is greatly expanded upon in that. And there are ways in which you can play as a Shard Jedi in the Saga edition. So if you guys want me to start covering more Star Wars RPG books and games, please let me know in the description down below. And as always, if you like this video, perhaps consider leaving me a like down below, a comment with any feedback, or if I've missed any Lord bits out. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and consider sharing this around if you enjoyed it. That being said, take care, have a good day, and may the Lore Keepers ever be in your favour.